So I'll try to tell you something which all of you maybe already know, but maybe some of you don't. Something about LGBT population in Serbia in the context of Europeanization. And I'll start with a very, I don't know, very simple definition of Europeanization as a process in which states adopt EU rules. We've heard so much about this today, so I'm not going to, dwell too much on this, because I think you all know the eventual problematics of giving this kind of a definition. So when it comes to formal endeavors at bettering the status of LGBT persons in Serbia, there were some endeavors directly aimed at that. Starting with 2002, there were a set of laws, koji su bili doneti, adopted, yes, that explicitly mentioned sexual orientation, gender identity and stuff like that in order to prevent any kind of discrimination. A number of programs with the same goal, some strategies, some action plans were also implemented at the government level. Not initialized always by the government, but being done at the government level, as a final goal to better the status of LGBT persons. And of course, several pride parades were held without any major incidents. This is a graph I picked up from one work by one Cohen Sloatmakers from 2017, and basically there are three phases of these pride parades. What is interesting that after 2015 there was also some LGBT manifestations held outside of capital, outside of Belgrade, in Novi Sad and Niš also. So the pride today is not so much big of a deal as it used to be in, say, 2010 or 2011. And to say that nothing has been done would be, basically wrong. Our survey data from 2017 show a rather rise in a positive attitude towards homosexuals. This was the question on which the survey respondents had to respond from 1 to 10. 1 is never, 10 always. Whether you think homosexuality can always be justified, never be justified, or something in between. In 2008, almost 6% were giving answers from 1 to 5. In 2017, 13.2%. So this is a clear advance. It's not spectacular, of course, but you can for sure say that something has changed. Okay? Also, we have an openly lesbian prime minister. I mean, in some countries that wouldn't be that much big of a deal, but in Serbia it certainly is. What's interesting is that the Serbian Orthodox Church gave its a public approval of this, and this is very interesting. I mean, I don't have time to tell you about this, but for years I studied religion and homosexuality in Serbia together, and this came as a rather big surprise. Also on a symbolical level, the Crown Prince, the Patriarch, and the Prime Minister together in all of the newspapers. I mean, that is a huge blow to the system of patriarchal relations that exists. But alas, it's only on a symbolical level. And all these measures that I mentioned had a number of unintended and ambivalent consequences. So basically now we're going into this informal level of the whole story. All these prides that were held were basically state prides. One scholar called Marek Mikuš, he came with this term of state pride. The prides were appropriated and exploited by the state, basically in order to show the Europe, hey, we are LGBT positive, here's what we do. There was a lot of, this is also from the leftist theory, pink washing, because government was pro-LGBT while at the same time masking other forms of discrimination, And this, I think, is an ambivalent effect. Also, there was some homonationalism, and very interestingly enough, auto-Balkanization, because it was rather explained as uncritical acceptance of EU rules and EU norms without making any kind of adoptions to the local context. all these LGBT affirming actions were short-lived and they were basically artificial. Europeanization came down to fulfilling the formal obligations with little or no effort to induce the real changes in everyday lives of LGBT people. A number of researchers and surveys with, how should I say, this is really imprecise, with ordinary LGBT people, people who are not in the spotlight, people said nothing changed in my life because of these prides. When prides occur, people are more aware of looking for the LGBTs in order to be violent towards them. And also the police did not contest or resist LGBT affirming actions on the formal level, but using some kind of informal techniques to sabotage the prides. Top-level politicians were very reluctant to give their full support. Some statements, I'm not going to read them all, but when asked to walk together with the prides, people who walked in the pride, Vučić said, "Thank you, I don't want to." He basically said, "We are doing it because we have to do it." Of course, this is, kowtowing. This is playing for their conservative electoral base, because I mean he's in 13.2%, but 87% are against it. So of course he's going to go for 87%. Ivica Dačić being plain about that it's pro-European thing, and I mean he even went vulgar when he said, "Ditch the European Union if the entry ticket is the gay parade." Now this doesn't seem very gay friendly to me. I don't know about you, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And also in 2013, on a formal level, hate crime was introduced as a sort of, I don't know the English term, otežavajuća okolnost. If you perform a crime, aggravating circumstance. Thank you, Eric. Until December 2nd, one verdict, it was never invoked before that. This is the first time, a few months ago. Although there were instances in which was reported, but the judges never, made it a part of their verdict until December the 2nd, 2018. I mean, this is a clear signal that former rules are not implied as the way as there should be, at least to my mind. Also, besides state pride, another term came out as ghost pride, in which state staged as a sort of Potemkin village. The state staged prides just for half an hour, and after that blocked the part of the cities. The protesters walk, and then I don't know, drove the people out of there to their security, and everything was back to normal. A ritualistic walk through the city, and with no real political significance. For people who know Belgrade, this is one of the busiest streets, but these are the protesters, this is the police, and everything else is empty. Belgrade looked, in some media reports, Belgrade was under siege. They made comparisons with World War II when the bombing started, so everybody cleared the streets. This is also one very busy street in Belgrade, totally empty. Also here. I mean, what kind of political significance can you make when you make a protest walk in a completely empty city? Okay? Also one of the very, very busiest streets in Belgrade. Also, as I said earlier, appointing Ana Brnabić for Prime Minister was a blow to the oppressive regime of gender relations, because I can only imagine one hardline patriarchal nationalist looking at an openly gay Prime Minister who is, by the way, her partner is getting pregnant and then going to have a child soon. So that must be a unsurmountable paradox in the minds of those people. But eventually, what are destabilized is the grassroots ownerships and initiatives from below to change the situation, and all becomes one great macro project, who alienates all the endeavors. And this is something from the leftist theory. a disciplinary gay subject able to perform Europeanist is a little bit Foucauldian language here, is being created instead of, I don't know, some ordinary citizens who can make the change in the government. Also, in some research with gay people, the research showed that the leaders of the protests basically have no legitimacy when it comes to organizing the protests and organizing some kind of political activity. And that is also the consequence of this top-down process which was enacted. And also, this Europeanist discourse and this elitist kind of approach strengthens the opposition. And kind of you know, gives them fuel so they can, you know, have more leverage in this kind of discussions. As for some suggestions for the change in policy, some kind of narrative that resounds with local traditions and rules, but not in a way of making Serbian pride, but on clinging on something that is being there in tradition. Jovan, in case of Macedonia, suggested a very interesting thing, that during the process of basing Macedonian identity on Alexander the Great, one could plan the ticket that he was a homosexual, right? And then this way improve the I mean, yeah. So in Serbia, alas, this project is now, I don't know, gone. So we have to find some new ways. In Serbia, there are some interesting stuff with gender identities and virginas and sworn virgins that can be played. And there's also some local customs which have this kind of gray sexuality areas that can be used in this kind of way. Also, once a year, Pride, without continual judicial, cultural, and pedagogical programs, is not going to bring any kind of betterment to the LGBT populations. And of course, taking the intersectional nature of oppression, and not just the political one, but also the economic one, and maybe forging some coalitions in some different kind of spheres. With, I don't know, one gay activist, the people who grow raspberries in Serbia, were in a strike because the price of raspberries was very low. He suggested, let's go together with people who produce raspberries. Okay? I mean, I know it sounds funny. I mean, gays defending raspberries. Okay? Okay. Yeah, it sounds totally gay in a way. But these kind of alliances, I think, could be useful. That's the point. I mean, you get my point. And of course, local LGBT community building outside of capital, outside of Belgrade, is a potential that is still not being used. Okay? I think it was gay enough. So.